Hi everybody. So last year in 2020, Jason from Horrific Nightmares and Joe the Horror Man, they had a series going called Top 20 for 2020, which was a great series. But unfortunately, I came upon it only halfway through the year, which means that I missed a lot of the themes from the first part of 2020. So even though this is mostly a horror novel channel, I do love talking about horror films almost as much as horror books. So I'd like to go back through the genres that I missed and give my top 20. So this is my top 20 for 2021, the themes that I missed. Now, the first one I'd like to talk about is horror sequels. There are many, many of them. This list of 20 had to be whittled down from a start of about 50. But this is what I've come up with. So, all right, and at number 20, I Spit on Your Grave 3. Now, I've mentioned this before, but rape revenge films are not for me. But what I like and admire about this film is it actually takes the theme seriously. It's not just kind of voyeurism or kind of, pornography. I love the idea of having the girl from the original film go to these self-help groups and take revenge on the awful men who are just shit boyfriends and husbands and what have you. So, and rapists. So, anyway, I Spit in Your Grave 3 is in at number 20. Number 19, Wishmaster 2. Andrew Divoff, one of the iconic horror villain performances, I think. I love everything about his portrayal of the Jinn. I mean, he is wringing syllables out of words that aren't even there. The way that he speaks is as great as the way he acts. So, Wishmaster 2, I think, well, I don't think, it's by far the best of the sequels. Next up, Return of the Living Dead 3, with one of my all-time favorite cover arts there, poster arts. Yeah, very original film, kind of a romantic horror film with one of the most stunning characters of all time there on the cover. Next up, I know this isn't a very popular film, but Happy Death Day to You. I love the kind of the heart of this film. I do think it has a good emotional core. Love the story, and I hope that they continue this series. Next up is Amityville 2, The Possession. Obviously, it falls apart a bit at the end when it goes for an Exorcist kind of rip-off, but everything until that point is really, really cool. Next up, Demon House, which is Night of the Demons Part 3. As much as I love the second film, I think this one just about edges it because I like the group of characters just a bit more here. Next up is Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. Not much to say about this because I know everyone's seen it. Well, everyone's seen almost all of these films, I suppose. But I love the Children of the Corn franchise. Pretty much all the films in it, even the ones that are kind of weak as films, I still love. I love the Stephen King short story. It's one of my favorite short stories of all time. The Conjuring 2 is next, even though I think the Enfield Haunting is it's over here actually on the shelf. This is a much better telling of the story. It's exactly the same story that these films tell. This is still a fantastic film, and it was really difficult to choose which sequel from the Conjuring franchise to choose, because one of the rules of this series is you can only have one film per franchise. But I'm happy with this choice in the end, because it is such a wonderful, atmospheric, haunted film. Demons 2 comes in next. Took me a long time to appreciate this film. The first Demons is an all-time favorite film of mine. It's in my top 5 horror films of all time. And this is a step down from that, but over time I've come to really, really appreciate it and love it. So, Demons 2, and rounding out the bottom 10 is Curse of Chucky, my favorite film in all the franchise. And yeah, I think I've talked about this film before in one of these videos. I don't remember which one it was, but I think it was 2010 slasher films. So go and watch that if you want my thoughts on it. But just a great, great film. All right, into the top 10. Fright Night 2. This is a really difficult film to come by in my neck of the woods, hence this Spanish DVD. But I like this as much as the original, if not more than the original, because I don't remember the girl's name, but I prefer the sidekick in this of Charlie. And yeah, that woman, what's her name? Whoever she is, the woman, the actress from In the Mouth of Madness. Very beautiful and a fantastic performance. So Fright Night 2. Next up is Sleepaway Camp 2. This film has my all-time favorite kill in a film, the one where she stuffs the girl down the toilet. I roll laughing every time I watch that. This is one of the most fun films I've ever seen. It's just from start to finish, every second, every frame of this film is so much fun. I just wish it had a slightly better cover art than that, because I have no idea who that girl is. Next up, in at number 8, again, I'm sorry, I know this isn't a very popular film, but I still know what he did last summer. This is one of my all-time favorite slasher films. I far prefer this to the original because I prefer the cast of this, firstly. Mekhi Phifer and Brandy have real chemistry going compared to Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar from the first one, where there's just zero going on. These two actually feel and interact like a couple. Freddie Prinze Jr. is his usual kind of wet drip, but he's not in the film all that much. He's actually not part of the main group for most of it. And yeah, I love the setting on the island. I love the atmosphere of it. Just really, really cool film. Like it. In fact, I fired myself up saying that. I might watch it tonight. It's my mother-in-law's birthday today, but after that's over, I'll watch a slasher film. Psycho 2 comes in next. I could easily have chosen Psycho 3, but I'm going with 2. One of the all-time great sequels. I mean, it's not just a favorite of mine, it's a legitimately fantastic film. And very creative way to bring Norman Bates back, because they could so easily have messed it up. When you do a sequel so many years after the classic original, they could really have made a mess of it, but they didn't. They nailed every part of it. So Psycho 2. Next up is The Exorcist III, with one of the most frightening scenes of all time in it. And if you have, let me clear some space here. If you have this Arrow edition, just a recommendation, don't start with the director's cut, because it will really turn you off. It's good to have it. It's nice to see it, but it's not a patch on the theatrical, in my opinion. Even though I wish that the studio hadn't meddled with the theatrical and forced him to kind of shoehorn in that odd ending. But anyway, yeah, it is a really well-made, well-written film, and the book, which is called Legion, is also very, very good, if a bit overwritten in places. Next up is Paranormal Activity 3, one of my favorite franchises, and this is, I think, the strongest sequel from it. Really well acted by the two child actresses. Very creepy, and yeah, just a great, great film. Next up, are we in the top 5? We're now down to number 4. Freddys Revenge, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Even though I think Part 3 is maybe the better film, over time I've come to prefer this one. Because it's just so much fun, like I said about Sleepaway Camp 2. It's just so goofy and weird. But at the same time, I mean, Freddy is at his darkest here. Freddy feels really evil in this one. So Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Next up is Halloween 4, my favorite in the Halloween series. I've spoken about this film several times on this channel, so not much more to say, but I think that it just has a tremendous atmosphere in this. Really Halloween-y atmosphere, but also I love the storm at the beginning. It's just pure horror film, pure slasher film. Next up, in number 2, Friday the 13th Part 3. I ranked all the Friday the 13th films not too long ago, so my thoughts on this film are there. But yeah, it's my favorite in the series. I love the cast, and I think it's the perfect Friday the 13th film. So at number 1 is, for nostalgia reasons, Hellraiser 3. One of the very first horror films I ever saw. I have this still on VHS, and I used to watch it over and over again as a teenager. Even though the second half of the film isn't a patch on the first half of the film, it doesn't matter to me, because it's all just a nostalgia journey from first frame to the last. So that's the reason for it being number 1. I absolutely don't think it's the best film on this list. That would probably be Exorcist 3 or Psycho 2. But it is my favorite. It's a film that I can watch over and over again and always have happy memories of watching it as a teenager. So that's going to do it. That's my top 20 for 21 sequels, horror sequels. And I'm going to be doing these videos intermittently. I don't really have a plan, but I'm going to go. I think the next one I'll do will be the 80s slasher one. But there's lots of really cool themes that I missed, so I want to go back and now and again just give my thoughts on my top 20. All right, anyway, so that's it. I'm going to go now. I will very soon be wrapping up my Richard Lehman horror novel review series, so stick around for that if you've been following it. Until then, everyone take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.